So recently on the channel you may have seen that we platinumed Infamous Second Son. If you haven't, then why not? Go watch it now. Since that video you guys have been telling me to check out Infamous First Light and that a few of you even consider this game to be better, and I've listened, which brings us to today's video. I'm going to be getting the Platinum Trophy for Infamous First Light and I'm going to be taking you guys on that journey with me. Now, to get this Platinum Trophy, I've broken it down into a few steps. Step 1 is pretty simple and will be just to complete the main story. Step 2 will be cleanup. This will involve us making our way around the districts of Seattle, collecting all of the neon lumens, completing all of the side activities, and getting any of the miscellaneous trophies that we can. And finally, step 3 will be to make our way through and complete all of the arenas, achieving a minimum of 500,000 score, and then using those same arenas to farm out any remaining challenges and miscellaneous trophies that we may have left. Similarly to Infamous Second Son, this was a game that I played before, however only actually unlocked 1 out of the 25 available trophies. Just thought I'd tell you so you know why I'm starting with one of the trophies already unlocked. But anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. We begin the game as Abigail Walker, better known as Fetch. Now, if you've played Second Son or have seen my previous video, you'll have a good idea of who Fetch is and her backstory. Usually I would explain it a bit here, but it would ruin the story of this game, and it's also expanded upon, so you'll just have to keep watching to find out. Also, something quick to note, that essentially everything that happens during this game up until the ending is really just Fetch recalling the events of what happened that led up to her capture. You see, Fetch is currently sitting in Curden K prison talking to Brooke Augustine, head of the DUP, recalling the events that had taken place 2 years prior, which resulted in her imprisonment by the DUP. Flashback to 2 years earlier, and we are in Seattle with our brother Brent, with plans of pulling off one more job that will leave us with enough money to leave the city for a fresh start. All of a sudden, an officer decides he wants to come and check out the boat, and even though Brent disagrees, we make the quick decision to use our powers to distract the policeman and to pull off the job. We use our power to travel through the city at ridiculous speeds, and after losing the police, Brent gives us the location of the apartment we need to hit and tells us we need to grab a red duffel bag. We make our way over to the apartment, however it seems like someone else had already beaten us there, and we are left with no choice but to use our powers and kill the intruders before going for the goods. Turns out though, those goods were a little too hot to handle, as we discover a briefcase loaded with C4 and moments later are blasted out of the building. After getting blown out of the building, we head back to the boat to regroup with our brother, but in the space of 30 seconds, the boat had been destroyed and Brent has seemingly been kidnapped. After having a bit of a mental breakdown, we come back to present day where we are still sitting in a cell at Curden K, and it is at this point in the game where we see Augustine allow Fetch to use and train with her powers. And of course, if you've played Second Son, you know why. This also introduces us to the arena mode that the game has and what we will need to complete later. However, now, as well as a couple of other times throughout the story, we are just here to learn how to effectively use and train with our new abilities. We flash back again to 2 years prior, where we find Fetch at the wreckage of Brent's boat when she is approached by a mysterious man who asks if we have seen Brent. He soon reveals to us that his name is Shane and that Brent was working with him. We ask him for any information as to where the Akurans could be holding Brent, and he points us towards the east side of the city. While making our way over there, we visit a giant neon sign and use it to disperse neon clouds of gas all around the city. These clouds of gas act as a speed boost for when we are running through the city, and this also introduces us to one of the side activities of the game, the Lumen Races. Now, it is not a race against time, but we do have to chase a lumen orb through the city, which is much bigger than your average, thus of course offering more lumen for collecting them. Of course, the only way of getting enough speed to actually catch up to it is to use these neon gas clouds. These are straightforward and easy activities and don't require much effort to complete. We eventually get our hands on the juicy lumen orb when all of a sudden the Akurans show up, and we planned on taking all of them out, which resulted in us using a massive neon singularity, pulling in and killing all of the enemies. The neon singularity is essentially kind of this game's version of the karmic streak mechanic from Second Son, and it was very powerful. To be fair, even though it's simple, it may be my favourite power out of the two games. After dealing with them, Shane informs us that he has actually stolen a shipment of guns from the Occurrens and asks us to help protect his van until it gets to the safe house. It wasn't overly difficult nor long, but honestly I hate these kind of missions in any game. I just kind of find them long and tedious, but that's purely because they are literally just the same thing in every game that has them. I prefer to have more of an open style of combat like how we do for most of this game, rather than having to stick to a moving target to protect it. Granted, this game does make it more enjoyable thanks to the powers that we have, and nothing is quite as satisfying as blowing stuff up. After helping to deliver the guns, we then spend the next few missions essentially preparing for an assault on the Occurrens. During this time, Shane had sent men out to track down Brent, but of course things don't work out too well and we are sent to protect them. During these segments we do get to grab onto like this neon kind of source which grants us with an ever flowing amount of neon energy, as well as making our attacks significantly stronger. We also get introduced to Jenny. Jenny works for the government but also works for Shane on the side, and she tells us that she'll be able to assist us in helping to find Brent, but to do so we need to track down an Occurren lieutenant to find out where he travels to and from. During this mission we have to hack into multiple CCTV cameras around the city, following the path of the lieutenant as he chases down and kidnaps a woman. Yeah, they don't just sell drugs, they also sell people, just another reason to shut their operation down. We don't find the lieutenant, but we do find his phone and send a copy of the sim over to Jenny and let her get to work with tracking his locations. Eventually though, we do get word from Shane that the time had come to assault the Occurren stronghold, where Jenny had managed to gain intel on some prisoners being held in the shipping containers. Once at the stronghold, we proceed to clear the stronghold of the Occurren presence, while at the same time checking out the shipping containers. Jenny's intel was in fact correct, as we do find quite a number of people. However, Brent is not one of those people. All of a sudden though, we do get a phone call from Brent telling us that he's managed to escape, however has to hide in an alley as the Occurrens are nearby, and lets us know his location. Of course we head straight there, where we do in fact find Brent. We also find Shane, but this time it's with a gun pointed at Brent's head. Turns out he wasn't prepared to let his most powerful asset walk away without getting into a much more powerful position in the city, and was willing to turn on a conduit that could have literally zapped him to get there. He does promise to give our brothers back after helping though, Scout's honour and all. Fetch then has a full-on mental breakdown, sending neon energy bursting into Shane's men. Unfortunately though, he has already made his getaway. It's at this point we are taken back to the arena in Curtain K for further training, and also unlock the cracked trophy.
It sounds like your body was...
One of the few story related trophies of the game, and our first trophy since coming back onto it. With the Occurrens now dealt with, Shane's plans were to make a move on the city's mayor and chief of police, strong-arming them into an agreement that will allow him to run his operations without hassle, as well as having the power of those positions in his back pocket. However, with the DUP now making a move into the city, his men end up being imprisoned, and we have no choice but to save them, otherwise it's bye-bye Brent. In between jobs for Shane, Jenny gets in contact with us and tells us that she's heard about what Shane had done with Brent and that she wants to help us get him back. During this time she informs us that Shane has been buying CCTV drones, and we are then introduced to another one of the game's side activities, all collectibles depending on how you view them. That mission was pretty basic. We just made our way around the map, locating and destroying drones, reducing just how much of the city Shane can keep his eye on. She eventually discovers that Shane has been trying to convince people that he and his crew are essentially the new Occurrens of Seattle, and as a show of power, rounds up who he considers to be troublemakers and locks them in numerous shipping containers located around the city. Jenny has reason to believe that Brent is in one of these containers, but informs us that once we break into the first one, we will only have a limited amount of time before Shane will be alerted to what's going on. We make our way around the city, taking out numerous members of Shane's crew and searching each of the shipping containers. However, each one we went to turned up short. Brent was nowhere to be found. We tried to get hold of Jenny to let her know that he wasn't in any of them. However, it wasn't Jenny who picks up the phone. Turns out that Shane had found out what we were both up to and decided that he was going to put a stop to that, and we eventually find Jenny dead in an alleyway, with Shane reminding us what happens if we double cross him and urges us to not do so again.
She knew the price of betraying me. The question is, do you?
My brother. You'll kill my brother.
That's good. Now don't let Jenny's death be a waste. Do what I say when I say it, and your brother lives.
Not long after this, Shane informs us that the chief of police is making his way through the town and sees this as the opportunity to have a little sit-down discussion with him. Of course, we are the key to that happening, and we do this by distracting the cops with the goal of not killing any, so we go for the general public instead.
Starts for their cause! Keep raising hell!
Eventually, Shane informs us that the chief of police is alone and that he is making his move on him, and tells us to head to his location to make sure he wasn't interrupted. Turns out we should have just killed all the cops in the first place, because for the next few minutes that's exactly what we spend our time doing while they chinwag. After slaughtering nearly the whole of Seattle PD, Shane lets us know that everything has gone as planned and that the mayor would make him a made man as soon as we left the city. He also tells us that Brent has been held at a location not far from where we currently are, so we head over there with the hopes of finding him. Spoiler alert, we don't find Brent. We do find out though that we have been double-crossed for a second time by the same guy. He trapped us in the corridor and starts filling the room up with poison gas. There seemed to be no escape and things weren't looking good for Fetch. Eventually though, she has another mental breakdown, and with that she manages to escape the room and we unlock another story-related trophy.
Shane had Brent. If I couldn't make a deal...
Once outside, it was time to finally hit back at Shane and get our revenge. We began making our way around Seattle and began by picking away at his little band of buddies and destroying all of his drugs. Eventually, Shane gets super pissed and decided he wants to challenge us head on and tells us to meet him at his hideout, which just so happens to be Fetch's hideout in Second Son, the old abandoned theatre. We make our way there, and while clearing out Shane's bunch of goons outside, we unlock the Event Horizon trophy for defeating 100 enemies in total with a neon singularity. Once inside, Shane appears out of nowhere and drugs us from behind. He makes his escape and we realise that the dirty rat had done it again. Only this time, he's called the DUP in to try and capture us. Heavily drugged and waves of DUP inbound, we had no option but to fight to the best of our abilities. Next thing you know, Fetch is high as a kite and on the astral plane. We begin having visions of our childhood and even come up against a skeleton that has the ability to chuck holograms our way to attack us and slow us down. Can't lie, this little sequence is probably one of the weirdest I've seen in an Infamous game. It was cool, don't get me wrong, just kind of unexpected. We eventually come back around where we discover that the fight with Skeddy Bro was actually our bro, but it was too late. Fetch had already blasted him through the chest with her powers due to being under the influence. Don't do drugs.
I'm so sorry. I was confused. I was not seeing things. It's just Shane. He made me...
It's okay. It's not your fault.
Now, after playing through Infamous Second Son, it was kind of insinuated that Fetch had killed her brother due to blind rage when she thought her brother had stole from her stash. At least, that's what I got from it. Where the actual truth is that they were both betrayed and she was drugged while attempting to rescue him, which led to her killing her brother. Kinda sad when you think about it, but it's cool to see that twist, and it's a great way of clearing up and expanding her backstory. After killing Brent, the DUP make their move in on Fetch and manage to capture her, taking her to Curtin K prison, which leads us back to the present day. Augustine is talking to Fetch and asks her that if given the opportunity, would she kill Shane, where she then reveals that she in fact has Shane in her possession and gives us the opportunity to finally take our revenge.
Tell this gal that I am 100% normal American.
I already knew your story, but I had to make you relive it, to get you back to the point where you gave up.
Damn it, I am not one of those freaks.
After Fetch's burst of power, we wake up outside of the prison and discover that Shane is trying to make an escape with a military vehicle. I mean, how that explosion just didn't vaporize him anyway, I don't know, but we move. We begin making our way along the edge of the island, and it wasn't too long before we come across some DUP. Of course, they're not giving us a free pass, as we are now technically an escaped prisoner, and we have no choice but to continue on foot, wiping out all of the troops that stand in our way. There was a decent amount of enemies in this section, and thanks to that I actually managed to unlock another one of the combat trophies. and that is the Bada Boom trophy for defeating 20 enemies in a row with homing missiles. After a pretty lengthy section of killing DUP soldiers, we eventually find the man himself, this time with absolutely nowhere to run. It was time for him to accept his fate, and we finally get revenge for his betrayal and the pain that he had caused.
Brett's dead.
I didn't kill him. You did.
You see that, Brett? I want to make this right.
The game then finishes with Fetch, Eugene and Hank getting into the prison transport with the events of Second Son just round the corner. The credits roll and we unlock the final story related trophy. Now, with the main story for Infamous First Light finally complete, it was time for everyone's favourite stage, the cleanup stage. At this point, my main objective was to travel around Seattle, collect all of the collectibles, as well as completing the optional side objectives and as many challenges as I could along the way. Before making any significant progress in that though, we do manage to unlock the Fish in a Barrel trophy for getting 25 kills using the stasis and hitting the enemies in the weak point. So, as for the cleanup stage, we had 3 types of side activities to complete. The first of these being the police drones that can be found hovering around Seattle. Once in the search area, we can use our phone to watch a stream of the drone's camera footage, and using that we can pinpoint their exact location to then destroy them, and once destroying all of them, we unlock the Blackout trophy.
Bet you didn't see that coming.
The next activity we needed to complete was to finish up tagging all of the remaining neon graffiti locations. Not much to say about these, they're pretty much exactly the same as the graffiti spots in Second Son, although I will say the neon is 10 times better. After lighting up the town, we unlock the That's So Fetch trophy.
I'll always be on your shoulders, big brother.
For our final side activity, we needed to complete all of the remaining Lumen races. Now, there's nothing I can say here to explain it more than what I did earlier. I mean, we're literally just chasing a neon orb, like that's pretty much the gist of it really. Anyway, after completing all of these races and collecting the big Lumen orbs, we unlock the Lickety Pronto trophy.
Oh yeah, worth it.
With the activities out of the way, all that was left was to collect the remaining few of the neon lumens we had left around the map, unlocking us the Illuminated trophy. With open world cleanup now complete, it was time to move on to our final grind of the game. We needed to enter each of the 3 arenas and get a score of 500,000 in each of the arena types. There was a survival and a hostage. Exactly what it sounds like here, guys. The main goal of survival was to just last as long as you can against endless waves of DUP soldiers while building up a high score multiplier to get the 500,000 points needed. This wasn't overly difficult, but there were a couple of times throughout where I'd get right near the 500,000 mark, but then I'd do something completely stupid leading to my death and making me do another run. For the hostage arenas, in a sense they were pretty much identical to survival, hold out against endless waves of DUP and get a high multiplier. Only difference is that in hostage arenas, we obviously need to save hostages, which will continue to periodically spawn throughout, and if you fail to save a certain amount, you must start the run again. The arenas were actually a great opportunity to work towards the 2 last miscellaneous trophies, however. These trophies involved overloading a total of 25 turrets, causing them to attack and kill DUP agents for the Turret Syndrome trophy, and the other was for saving a total of 50 hostages for the Great Responsibility trophy. Here I'm just going to show you the trophies pop in, as well as some of the trophies for completing up to 75% of the challenges, as these were earned during this time.
You certainly didn't embarrass. I see the practice is paying off.
Now, there was only 2 trophies left between me and the Platinum Trophy, and that was to finish off 100% completing all of the remaining challenges that we have left, which will then allow us to purchase our final upgrade, unlocking the Platinum Trophy. Now, the challenges all in all were very straightforward and easy. Most of them consisted of just killing a number of different types of enemies, and the 3 different arenas had different spawn rates for each of these types. But the most reliable for the enemy types by far was the final arena, as it had a good mix of DUP and Eugene's projections. The other challenges usually consisted of getting kills in a certain way, whether that being with specific abilities like the singularity or stasis abilities, or if it required something more specific like kill X amount of enemies while in the air. As I said though, these challenges were very straightforward and easy, though at times it was a little bit boring and felt like a bit tedious. Don't get me wrong, the combat is alright, but there's only a certain amount of times that you can kill the same enemy over and over again. I will also mention there were challenges specifically linked to the city of Seattle, but I cleaned those up pretty quickly during the cleanup. Eventually though, it was all worth it, as we unlocked the Perfectionist trophy for completing all of the challenges in the game. We then quickly make our way over to our skill tree and purchase our final upgrade for the Unleashed trophy, which of course unlocks that absolutely gorgeous platinum. And with that being the Platinum Trophy, this brings us to the end of the game and also the end of the video. Now, my thoughts on the game, honestly, there isn't a hell of a lot that I can say about this game that I didn't already say about Second Son. I mean, it realistically is built on the exact same foundations, it has the same mechanics, things like that. So both games are very similar. I personally enjoyed the story, and I can see why you guys consider it to be better than Second Son's. I felt more invested in my character. Fetch and her backstory as a whole, to be honest, is just more interesting than Delsin's. Not saying his is terrible, because it's far from it, but Fetch's was just much better in my opinion. The combat for the most part is exactly the same as Second Son, except we don't have the option to gain new powers and are instead only given the option to use one, which to me didn't really make a difference. I personally loved the neon power. It felt genuinely powerful, it had an interesting set of abilities, and it was also very nice to actually see it in action. The open world was set in the same city of Seattle as infamous Second Son, although only actually having access to the upper island, though the game does enough to not make you feel like you're missing out by not being able to travel there. So all in all, would I recommend this as a game that you should get the platinum for? And to that I have to wholeheartedly say yes. It's very enjoyable and really doesn't take too long to complete, and if you've already platinumed Infamous Second Son, then getting the platinum for this should be a no-brainer. Anyway guys, if you have made it this far, then I'd like to thank each and every single one of you, but as I said, this does bring us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know by smashing that like button and sharing this video around. It shows your support, and your support is always appreciated on the channel. If you guys have any suggestions for future games I should play, let me know in the comments below, and also let me know what you guys personally think of Infamous First Light. I'd love to know how you guys feel about it. And also, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on to stay up to date with everything I upload. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.